here to introduce David Sachs, who is a producer extraordinaire in Hollywood, responsible for Third Rock from the Sun. He was involved with The Simpsons, and now he's on a very big show which we can't talk about because his lawyers have told us not to disclose it. And he's also very important, very committed to the community, and he's done a lot of social impact programs himself. He spearheads. And he also was very close on a personal level and a community level with Neal. So I'd like to introduce my close friend and colleague, David Sachs.
Thank you so much, David and Harry, and just for coming, and it's an amazing turnout, and I'm honored to say words that, God willing, should be an elevation for Neal's soul, and we should just be able to learn a little bit together. So I just want to share with you an experience that I had recently that had a very big impact on me. I know Neal, among other places, from sort of a grassroots spiritual community here in Los Angeles called the Happy Minion of Los Angeles. And one of the programs that we did it on Shavuos night. So there we are, we're celebrating the receiving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. And we came up with a program called the Torah Slam. So what is that? So the idea was to invite the whole community to come together, and we did this from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning, and invite people to come up and to give a 60-second thought on the Ten Commandments. And believe it or not, we actually went straight from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., 60 seconds at a time. And people were timing so that if you went too long, you got the boot. And you'd be amazed at how much content that you can actually get across in 60 seconds. And it's an ideal program, actually. I really recommend it if you want to try one in your community, because we found that 60 seconds is long enough to say something very meaningful. And if you aren't so engaged by the speaker, you say, okay, you'll be off in 60 seconds. So you're simultaneously either very engaged or very forgiving, either way. But people were actually, fighting to be the next person at the podium to speak. You'd start to rise, but you'd see someone has the jump on you. So we started with the first commandment, and by 5 a.m., believe it or not, we had only gone up to the fourth commandment. And that's because we spent 3 hours on the mitzvah of Shabbos. People just kept on wanting to share insights, stories, whatever it is, about their relationship with Shabbos. And it was something to see. So what I want to do right now is I want to tell you my favorite thought from the whole night that someone shared. And it goes like this. A woman, I don't know her name, but she was in her 20s. She got up there and she introduced herself to the community. And she said, I am an identical twin. I have an identical twin. She said, I started keeping Shabbos recently. She said, my twin sister doesn't yet, but she comes to my house and she's interested in everything like that. But, she's still very much tied to, her previous, whatever it is. And for instance, her daily Starbucks coffee, loves her daily Starbucks coffee, doesn't matter what day of the week it is, has to have that, So then she said the following thing. She said, the other day, my twin sister said the following thing to me. She said, I want you to know that on Shabbos now, when I go to Starbucks, I take the back alley. And the reason is because I don't want people to see me going in and think that it's you. And I was like, stunned. I was like, your sister's so holy. This is the one who's not keeping Shabbos. She's so holy. And then this thought popped into my head, and I sort of ran to be the next speaker. And I said the following, which is that in Torah we have a concept of a Chilul Hashem, which is translated as a desecration of God's name. And it's actually a very counterintuitive idea. The thought is the following, that we actually have the ability to give God a bad reputation through our actions, which, if you think about it, is actually quite a phenomenal idea. I mean, here God creates the infinity of the universe. I mean, think about how large trillions of heavenly bodies, right? I don't know if this is accurate or not, but just the supposition itself is alarming. That there are more planets and stars and galaxies than grains of sand on the earth. I mean, just the fact, maybe it's true, but just the fact that you could even say such a thing just shows you how vast the universe is. And yet me who's less than nothing, I have the ability to possibly give God a bad reputation? I mean, that's wild. And why is that? Why is that? Because there's a component of, let's call it emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence is basically doing the following. That people understand God through us. Right? That's the link that people make. And therefore, here's the conclusion, we are God's twin. Right? Because people are confusing us with God. They're making that link. We are God's twin. That's an amazing, I think, amazing thought. Now, in Torah, you have to understand something. Our worldview is that if you can do anything in a negative way, you can do it phenomenally to a greater extent, exponentially to a greater extent in a positive way. Which means that people can look at us and potentially, through our actions, say, I love God. Look at what you're doing. Based on what you're doing, all of a sudden, my impression of God is fantastic. Look at all the good that he's doing. So that's an amazing power that we have, really. Again, just think of the reference points, the hugeness of God and the finiteness of us, and yet we have the ability to give God a fantastic reputation. And so I think it's appropriate at this point to really tie it all together and really to link it to Neal and to Neal's legacy. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach was an amazing rabbi, amazing figure, and he had a community of he used to call them holy hippalach, right? Translation hippies, right? In the 60s and the 70s, and a place called the House of Love and Prayer in San Francisco. They asked him, why did you call it the House of Love and Prayer? He said, if I called it Beth Israel, no one would have come, So the nickname of his Hasidim, his students, his followers, were the holy beggars. And people asked him one time, he wasn't, I guess they were thinking that maybe it wasn't such a dignified name for this group of very sincere, dedicated spiritual people. So someone asked him, why are they called the holy beggars? And he said, because they're begging to give. And that always moved me greatly. Neal was someone who was begging to give. And in Torah, the way we understand the dynamics of the soul, the dynamics of the way the world works, is that the soul keeps on going. And the soul maintains its identity. This is a step that philosophically a lot of people get lost in. They acknowledge that we have a soul, but then and they even acknowledge that there's a God. But the step that a lot of people miss, which is a very critical step in terms of understanding the universe, is that your soul, after it leaves the body, we should all live long, doesn't disappear into the oneness of God. The soul remains intact with your personality, which means that essentially, if you want to just put it in the most dramatic way, we live forever. Because one continues to exist with one's personality for perpetuity. That's an amazing idea and worth meditating on, because that means that we really have to look at how we're living our life in this world, right? So we have another foundation in Torah in terms of our understanding of the way the world works, which is that once a gate opens, spiritually speaking, it remains open. And we also have another foundation, which is that tzaddikim, righteous people, can do more in the next world than they can do even in this world. And so this gate that Neal opened to know God, to make people love God, to give God a fantastic reputation, to care for each other, this gate that Neal opened during his lifetime remains open. And the proof that it remains open is this amazing fund that's been set up, that the good and the light continues to flow from heaven to earth through Neal's soul, and it's manifesting itself right now in the most wonderful projects. I know from my own experience on a grassroots level in terms of organizing in terms of the spiritual community and things like that, people are very highly motivated. And for the most part, they don't need a huge amount of money to get going or to launch their project. And so this targeted fund, these micro grants, are ideal to sort of putting wings on people so that they can take their ideas and that they can have this seed money really to fly with it. And already, if you look at the initial grants that have been given out, they're so beautiful. What is it? It's about giving kids who are in challenging economic circumstances in Israel, a chance to connect for summer camp. That's a huge thing. That's a huge block of time that would otherwise go unsupervised. People who are elderly, who need desperately companionship, are given, musicians from all sorts of different backgrounds. There's an entire Jewish community, Spanish-speaking, which is very underserved right now. And there's an internet initiative to be able to deliver huge amounts of Torah to them in the language that they speak, and something that will resonate with their souls, with their lives. And there's so many more examples that are waiting to happen. And so again, it's just a privilege to be connected with this, and everyone should just get the word out and understand that any of the dollars that you might be thinking of giving or whatever it is are going to go to a fantastic, highly targeted place to really focused, motivated people. And all of this will be an elevation for Neal's soul. And all of this will be a way for us to be able to express the beauty of God with our own lives and our own deeds. Because we are God's twin, and people can look at us and decide that they have a fantastic opinion about all the good things that we're really trying to do. Thank you so much for this time.